Anya here, and we're going to be talking about detox today. So from Divine Elements, we're in our Revita store, and really excited to share this information with you. This is stuff that you may or may not have heard before, and we're going to hopefully explain it in a way that's really easy to digest. So one of the first things that we want to talk about when it comes to detoxification is, do you have enough energy to detox? So we get toxicity from so many different sources, but it really comes down to our ability to get it out of our body. So how do we get it out of our body? These guys right here. If you recognize that picture or that little design here, this is the sign of a mitochondria. Mitochondria is what feeds your body, gives you energy, allows you to exercise, pump blood through your body, clear heavy metals and other toxins out of your system through supporting your liver function. Helps your hair grow, your skin, your nails. Everything that happens inside your body happens as a result of the mitochondria.
So you can see that it's really important. And the mitochondria sits in our cells. So what are our cells? They're basically in every part of our system. Every organ has certain cells that it uses to create that energy so that we can utilize it in detoxification or for just general energy. And so this cell that we have here has multiple receptors on top of it. And these receptors are how hormones can bind onto the cell and communicate inside to tell the mitochondria what to do.
Yeah, and if you're basically with chronic illness, whether we're talking about diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, every situation where there's a dis-ease, there's a dysfunction in your mitochondria. And the degree to which you can heal is dependent on those guys right there. So they're vitally important. And they're communicated to constantly by way of what Dr. Sonia was saying, was through your hormones. So how do you support your hormones? Well, what are the ones that cause the most destruction in our body when they're over-signaled are these guys right here. So we've got insulin, glucose, cortisol. So when does insulin spike? Almost every time you eat, but definitely it spikes a lot higher when you've raised your blood sugar to such a high degree. That happens with simple carbohydrates. That happens with getting your calories through liquids, which we should never do. That happens when even when you're stressed out with the cortisol. There's so many different ways to elevate blood glucose, and blood glucose is basically what's elevating insulin. Insulin, all its main role is storage. So you take in sugar, it's going to store as fat. You take in even grains, which are carbohydrates. Well, guess what? They stimulate glucose, and then they stimulate the release of insulin. What is that? That's more storage, more storage, more storage. So basically, you overwhelm your energy system. Can you imagine if Imagine you've got a storage space, and like a U-Haul storage space or whatever, and you keep buying more things, but you keep shoving them into the storage space. Eventually there's going to be no more room in your storage space, but you keep shoveling stuff in there. Well, guess what? You're going to run out of energy, and energy in the form of storage space is literally your space. How much space do you have left in your body? Well, it's only going to get stored as fat and become we're just waiting for you to finally use it. And that's all because your mitochondria are now just getting overwhelmed. There's no more room, there's no more energy for them to do what they need to do. Because what we really want is we want a healthy balance between insulin, cortisol, and all our anabolic and metabolism boosting hormones. That's your thyroid, your testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, growth hormone. These are vitally important.
And so what does that mean for you? A lot of people come in saying that I've tried everything, I'm trying all the diets, I'm exercising, but I'm not losing weight. So what he's associating this with is weight loss resistance. If we're continuously using insulin because our glucose is getting spiked up every time we eat and we're storing this, the cell is getting overworked, right? So at that point, your cell's not getting the right information that it needs to actually utilize the fat and mobilize the fat that we don't need.
Yeah. And so where do these hormones need to go? You need to get inside the cell. So we want to draw a picture here. On our picture here, if we've got a lot of inflammation, what happens to these receptors? These receptors are what bind to the hormones and take them inside the cell, tell the mitochondria what to do, tell the nucleus what to do, tell the different detox mechanisms inside the cell what to do. Well, guess what? You need to get those hormones inside, and you need to bind to those receptors. Well, when you have inflammation on the surface of your cell, that's blocking the ability of getting that thyroid hormone in, or the testosterone, growth hormone, or whatever. So it's not actually getting inside to do what it needs to do inside the cell. And essentially, that's chronic inflammation, right?
And where does that inflammation come from? So we have a list here. There's a toxic load, right? Heavy metals. I spoke a lot about lead in my Facebook Live a little while ago, and how we're just exposed to it, and we really don't have the ability to detoxify it when we don't have enough iron in our system. So nutrients play a huge role in how we're detoxifying as well. Pesticides, our foods are sprayed with pesticides, and they actually mimic hormones like estrogen, right? Glyphosate, Roundup, it's everywhere as well, and that too needs to be detoxified out of the system. So you can kind of see there's a theme here. There's all these things that are creating this toxic load, so our body continuously has to work in order to get that toxic load out of the system. And if it's not working efficiently, it's going to be harder and harder for it to do that. The bucket gets full and then starts to overflow, creating different symptoms.
Yeah, so our cells, you've heard the term before, our microcosm is an example of our macrocosm. So these cells that are sitting inside our liver, our digestive tract, inside our brain. And that chronic state of inflammation is what's driving illness. So when we see problems with heavy metals, it becomes a hormone problem because it gets into the brain, it gets in your digestive tract, it messes with your hormones. Glyphosate, we know that this eats away at your intestinal membrane. So this little picture of the cell is basically happening ubiquitously across the entire scope of the human body.
And stress, who doesn't have stress? So the minute we're stressed out, we're releasing certain hormones to deal and adapt to that stress. But if we're not, again, efficient and our body's unable to deal with it, that's when the problems start to arise.
Yeah, so this all comes back to cellular energy. Cellular energy comes from your mitochondria. How do you support